September 21, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the NinjaTrader 8 platform. You can go down to the descriptions below to see where I thought I saw setups as well as where I took my trades. Today, there was really only one piece of economic data that came out, which came out around 5:30 Pacific Standard, which is about right here. And as you can see, it caused the market to kind of rally a little bit. There was a pretty big sell-off. Now, this is a continuation of yesterday's FOMC meeting. As you can see, previously yesterday, there was a bit of congestion until about 11 o'clock, which is where the rate decision was made. And as you can see, it kind of sold off, consolidated, and then when Jerome Powell came out and spoke, giving his press conference, it rallied for a little bit, and then the market just kind of sold off. Rates, they decided to just pretty much keep the same, so there's no change in the rates. And then today was just a continuation. This is the pre-market highs and the pre-market lows. The pre-market highs and lows didn't really come into play too much. And I thought I found a channel, which is this red one, and I saw a few measured legs, but overall, the overall price action today was a sell-off and a very, very slow, gradual sell-off, making lower highs and lower lows throughout the day. And then probably toward the last, I would say about an hour and a half, things just kind of sold off into the close. I was able to take 4 trades today, and all 4 were green trades. I don't know why, but after I finished the day, I actually had to log off, and I had some errands to run pretty much right after 1 p.m. Pacific Standard. And when I came back, for whatever reason, NinjaTrader didn't have the markers marked on my couple of my trades. I think it's this one right here and this one right here, but I'll describe them when I get there. So a total of 4 trades, these 4 squared ones, and all 4 won. So that was kind of nice. So here we go. So in the pre-market, prices just kind of sold off. I originally thought that maybe we're going to be in a range, but I suspected there'd probably be a continuation sell-off because if you look at what was happening yesterday, there was a very, very strong bearish sell-off here, and you can tell even to the pre-market there was kind of a continuation here. So I thought there was something like that in play. And so when it bounced, I was thinking it was probably going to oscillate and then continue downwards. But I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this green channel for now. So at first, I didn't really have this red channel. I wasn't sure where things were going, but I did have this green channel going up. I didn't see any good trades or good safe setups until I get to about right here. I'm not sure why that's double printed. It doesn't need to be double printed. So this is what I saw. Prices broke out of this green channel. It made a new low, made a first entry short, comes up. It's getting ready to make a second entry short. So here it makes a good second entry short. It's a good signal bar. It is part of this orange channel going down, but this orange channel isn't confirmed yet. I just had pretty much, I was thinking there was some kind of resistance right here. And my orange channel actually looks closer to something like this at the time. So I wasn't sure there's an actual confirmation. And it did form above the EMA, so it's kind of dangerous to go short right into the EMA. So I wanted to wait for a confirmation setup before I went short. Prices continue lower going. I thought I saw a lower high forming here. Confirms a lower high. I think this was a possible trade because it confirms the second entry short. It closed below the EMA and also was rejected by the EMA. And there's enough room for a scalp from this low to the localized low for a good, probably just 1 point. And this is a decent signal bar. Prices then continue moving down. I do draw the other side of the orange channel. Originally it was just a trend line and now it becomes a channel because I do like there's 2 confirmations. I am looking for a third. And up here, depending on how you drew it, you could have actually had it slightly lower, but at the time I did have it slightly lower and I adjusted it up later, as you'll see. Prices are continuing chopping. I did see this measure move. See 1 leg down, pull back, and then the start of the second leg down, and it completed it here. It's also broke out of this green channel, the break, and I'm looking for it to test the lows, and it accomplishes it right here. So test the new low. Now it's just kind of chopping, and it looks like it falls into this trading range. I'm not really sure what I'm seeing, but I do suspect that this trend line of the orange channel is being some kind of resistance. It kind of chops around, it breaks out, and it continues down. So now both the highs and the low of the of the orange channel is containing price action, but I notice prices aren't really coming back to the top now, but they are respecting the EMA. So that kind of makes me change gears to look for any kind of setup that when it gets back to the EMA to be careful of. I saw this after the fact. I saw kind of a new high, first entry long, second entry long failure, but there was a no good signal bar to tell you that you should prepare for a setup or to take a trade, because when this one forms, it's definitely too late. So if you were to try to enter here one tick below, I feel it's very aggressive because you're also potentially running into the bottom of this potential trading range. So I saw some of these throughout the day. I didn't mark them, but I was just, because here you don't really know you have a setup coming. I mean, you could suspect it, but if this had closed a little bit lower, you feel more confident. But even if it closed lower, you don't have enough room to scalp out before you hit the bottom. So what this had to have done has actually been a red candle and closed higher. So gives you more room to scalp out. So anyways, just want to point that out because I saw that throughout the day and I just didn't feel comfortable taking those type of setups. Prices then continue down. It gets into this really, really choppy range. I also noticed that it completes, actually it doesn't complete, excuse me. I just saw that it was kind of a support here. Then it continues chopping, breaks out. Looks like it's a spike and a channel, but it's pretty ugly. I saw a new high here, first entry long, pulls back. It creates the second entry long. This is a pretty decent signal bar. Now the second entry long, even though it's a good signal bar, is the first attempt after the break of this green channel, which is kind of not the cleanest, the first attempt to push up. So I'm thinking there might be a pullback and might be another push up, but it just broke above the EMA. I wanted something a little more safe, a little more better confirmation. I am expecting to at least to test this high, but it also keeping in mind that this downtrend is probably looking for a new low. However, this downtrend, it doesn't look the cleanest at this moment. I mean, it does have one touch, two touch, three touch, and then one touch, two touch, three touch. You can argue for a fourth, and it broke out. So I'm thinking there's a struggle here to either go down below, but before it does, it might want to test the high here. And then at this time, I was playing with the idea of there might be some kind of shallow channel here, because it looked like I first kind of drew the bottoms here to touch pretty nicely. But when I actually had it connecting to the bottoms here, it didn't touch as nicely up here. So I adjusted it just so it fit nicely at the tops and the bottoms. But I also wasn't 100% sure it was a valid or a good channel to take any trades off of. It was just something to keep in mind. So I skipped this I skipped this second entry long, to wait and actually see this higher low. I take this trade actually because I like this higher low because it creates a first entry long, second entry long. It breaks down below. It traps a bunch of people that might have been thinking like this is a first attempt up, this is a second attempt up, and during the life of this candle when it flashed down, I could see people thinking it's breaking below the EMA, trying to get in early to see another push down to test the lows of this orange channel. So I just noticed that it flashed, then it went right back up. I like the looks of this candle, so I actually entered one tick above this original candle to give me a little bit of squiggle room to scalp out before it hit the localized top. So you can see it marked here. And I was able to get a quick 1 point. I didn't want to push it past this double top. And I was just happy for that 1 point. The prices continue moving up. It falls into this upward trend channel. And then it touches and it confirms the top where this red channel looks like it's coming into play. So that's kind of how I adjusted the red channel now. I said, okay, I can see one touch, two touch, three touch. So some kind of trend line here, possible resistance. And then down here is a little more iffy, but we'll see. I'm thinking it might actually come back down to the bottom. So prices continue moving. I saw this as a new high, saw first entry long. I saw this as a second entry long. This is actually a quick trade that happened because I thought, okay, this could be seen as one leg down, but I also saw this as first entry long, second entry long. What I liked about this setup is the EMA is holding prices down. The signal bar for the second entry long was good. So it's like, here's a new high, first entry long. This is a good signal bar for second entry long, but look how compressed it is. So it actually, if you had an order one tick above, you would have gotten filled. And when it flashed down, I like the looks of that. And it didn't flash down immediately. It was kind of chopping around, and then I decided to jump in on the trade, but I wanted to get a little bit more safety, so I didn't actually put it one tick below. I put it in here as a hunch and a hope that it would come back and fill me. It came back, filled me, and actually closed a little lower. I was able to get a quick scalp right here, which was all I was looking for. Prices then continue moving down. It falls into this green down channel, but it's very congested here. Now, this isn't the cleanest setup, but it did see something happening rather quickly, because if you look at the timestamp, this is all, these three candles happened in about a minute. So you can look at it here as like 25 even, 25, 29. So it's between this two is like 30 seconds. And then between this and this is another 30 seconds. So it's happening rather quickly. So I thought, okay, there's some kind of push coming back down. I was also playing off the hunch that this is actual resistance now. It might be coming back down. So then prices continue chopping around, kind of pulls back up. I'm thinking there might be an up channel here. It's getting a little confusing. I also saw this as one leg down, pull back, maybe a potential second leg down. And I also saw two clean legs here. Then prices continue chopping down. Now this orange channel going down, I wasn't 100% sure it was valid because it looks very wide. So I actually was thinking there was some kind of smaller channel here, but I just kind of left it alone. But I wasn't going to count it too much as a key entry point unless a fantastic setup came about. But it didn't rely on this as one of the major key entry points. This would have just been an extra reinforcing factor on a strong setup that was already looking strong. But I didn't see that, so I had to kind of sit back and wait. I did draw this as a trend line, touching two touches and a third one here. Down here at two touches, so yeah, this is a very wide channel. I wasn't 100% sure. Comes up, breaks through, kind of chops around. I did notice that it kind of completed this measure move from here, one leg down, made one push up, pull back, a second push up, then it came back down, one push down, second push down, these two measured legs down, and then it completed this big leg down. And notice that it just kind of touched here, but it was a little unclear for me at the time, so I had to just kind of sit and watch. I saw this second entry long here, new high, first entry long, second entry long. This is a pretty good signal bar. The second entry long, it's an inside bar though, so that gave me a little bit of pause. I did draw this trend channel, this trend line coming up. It wasn't really a channel yet, but I just saw it as a potential bounce and a potential channel up here, which I wasn't 100% sure if it was here, and it had an overshoot, which meant in my mind, if it was an overshoot, it'd be one push up, second push up with a potential to come back down. So I wasn't sure. Of course, then later I did drag it up to here. So this was a possible trade. It did make two clean legs down. And if you treated this as a range with no overshoot, then you could expect a potential bounce to come back up and test here. And this broke above the EMA pretty strongly. But ideally, I just wanted this bar, this one here, this signal bar, to close above the EMA to give me confidence to take this trade. But since it closed below, it gave me pause. And then when this one forms, like, okay, definitely confirmed second entry long. Felt a little bit still iffy about it. And then, of course, the trade works out. I did see a visual second entry short, like first entry short, second entry short. Now, why wouldn't I start from here and go first entry short, pull back here and here? Well, I thought this was kind of like a localized bottom. It's kind of bottoming out after this one push down, pull back, kind of made a second push down. So I saw this as it was consolidating here. It kind of made one push up, first entry short, kind of a second entry short here, kind of on a visual. Now, the visual, this is a good signal bar. Let me just go ahead and back up here. The good signal bar, if you put in one tick below, you're kind of trusting the strength of this as the top of the channel and rejecting. I don't know. I mean, it looks like you might have gotten stopped out or just barely survived. Let's see. Here, the highs is 404. 404. So it looks like you would have been able to survive and come back down, but it just didn't feel or look quite right. But then I did see a lower high here. What I liked about this lower high was it closed below the EMA, and it looked like there was enough oomph, or enough momentum to push down. So I actually took this trade, and I can confirm this one push down, two push down. It's kind of pushing back down, and I was thinking it's going to come back to this side. Take an entry here. You can see this magenta arrow. I didn't want to take a one tick below because I wanted enough room to scalp out. And I'm not sure where my blue arrow went, but this is kind of where NinjaTrader kind of wiped out my trades. But I can tell you I got out before it hit this bottom part. So I got in at around 404.50. I got out at around 443.99.20, 43.29, excuse me, 43.99 even. So that was kind of like a 6-point scalp real quick. I think yeah. So about a 6-point scalp. I wanted to get out just before I hit this potential trend line coming down. The prices continue chopping down. It breaks through this second support here. And it's kind of confirming this red trend line now. Prices continue moving. I see this as a new high, first entry long, creates a second entry long. The second entry long, it's not a good signal bar, and it close of this trigger bar. So here you're seeing, you're not even thinking second entry long, but then you see this and it creates a second entry long. But this creates a second entry long. Definitely it felt like this is a terrible signal bar. To take it after this has already triggered, the move has already been made. So now you're asking for however much more you wanted for a scalp, and that just felt risky. So I waited, but then I see this higher low, and I thought, okay, well, at first entry long, second entry long, it looks like it's bouncing off of this resistance, this support here. Excuse me, not resistance, this support. It's also bouncing off the bottom of this red channel. So it might kind of break up and out. I also like the fact that the way I had drawn this channel at the time, it looked like it was closing above. So I had to wait for this next candle to make sure it really was a higher low, because if the next candle ticks below, then definitely you don't have a higher low. Then this higher low might be actually this next candle. So I waited, and when this actually formed and started chopping, I took a trade in the life of this candle right at the highs of this previous candle. So I was able to get filled, and then I was able to scalp out pretty quickly on this next candle here. And as you can see, if you went for more than 1 point, you might have gotten stopped out. So I actually entered at 43.98, and I decided to try to get out at 43.99.25. It comes up to about 43.99.25, right about here. And it looks like you would have gotten all the way up to 43.99.75. Anything more, you might have gotten stopped out. So I was just going for a quick 6-point tick, 5-6 points, 5-6 ticks, not points. Prices then continue chopping around. Kind of goes into this oscillation. I'm expecting it to come back up to here to touch this top of this red channel. It looked like every time it went to the bottom, went to the top, came back, went to the top, and it was respecting this pre-market at the time. It came down. It looked like it might have been a resistance here, and now I'm breaking through, and I'm thinking it might come back up to the top. It doesn't. It oscillates, and it just kind of chops within this trading range. And I'm just sitting through this. I don't like the looks of any of this. These bodies are just side by side. So it's just too congested. I'm just waiting it out. It just doesn't look like anything safe. It breaks out below, chops, and it starts breaking down. So I did draw this resistance at the top here. I wasn't sure if it really was a channel. So actually where this midline was is where I had my channel drawn before. And as soon as it broke out of this midline, kind of came down here and looked like it was respecting it. That's where I dragged it down here, and this is where I placed the midline. It looked like it was some bullish bias, not bullish bias, but the downtrend was more higher on the top of the midline. Then it came down to the bottom, and then it kind of went back up. I did see a second entry short here, but this is like not a good trade because I saw this as a new low. Technically, a first entry short just barely comes back up. You have a second entry short. This isn't a very good signal bar to take a second entry short on, even though it is coming up against resistance. It's above the EMA. If the EMA was actually above here, that would give you another key entry point and more safety to feel that, okay, maybe you should take a short here. But since it kind of happened right about, where the only thing you're banking on is this purple trend line coming down, It didn't feel safe. And then sure, you have a confirmation close below, but I'm still, you wouldn't have known, and I would have waited for this candle to close. After this candle closes, I'm just waiting, chops around some more. I do see this failed second entry long. So it's here, the first entry long pulls back, the second entry long. I am wondering if it's going to fail and come back down because this candle is tiny. This candle is only about 5 ticks, what it looks like, and then it flashes down. So that's something that's okay. I didn't mind missing that trade because it's also above the EMA. It is crunching. As I said, if the EMA had only pulled up and everything was below the EMA on top of this trend channel coming down, that would have been better setups, more clean, more safer. So I had to wait. I did see this higher low. Now this higher low is kind of a different thing now. So clearly you do have a bearish bias coming down. It formed below the EMA. I like that. It is a higher low. It's confirming the second entry short is, because this failed second entry long is confirming the second entry short was a possible short to take, but this isn't a good trade. This isn't a good setup. This is finally a decent setup because it's telling you, hey, it's confirming these two setups that, hey, things are coming back down and you have enough room for a quick scalp. So this is a possible trade. Unfortunately, I didn't take it though, because you do have enough room to get down to the bottom, localized bottom here. But I'm expecting it to come back down to here. But I wasn't ready for that trade, and I just had to sit and watch. Then prices continue chopping down. It is respecting this top of this purple resistance again. Comes back down. It comes back, and it starts chopping within this trading range. And I see a second entry short, first entry short, pulls back, second entry short. Unfortunately, even though it has EMA rejection, I just wish this candle had actually closed red. Then I'd feel a little bit better because here I'm wondering, because it didn't quite touch this, I'm wondering if it's going to make the next candle come up and actually touch it and then reject. So I wasn't ready. And then when it flashed down and it closed, then definitely you're too late to try to take a trade because it's already near the bottom of the range. And where would you try to take your trade? One tick below here, you're going to run into the localized bottom. Try to put it one tick above here. It feels like it's a little bit too late. Like the trade is already gone without you. So then prices continue. I do see a lower high here, but it's a little bit, it's close to the EMA. It's kind of following this green channel now, but it just, as I said, there's not really that much room to scalp out before you hit the localized bottom. So again, it's something I just had to pass up. Prices then continue going down. It breaks out of this green channel, but it does hit this purple channel again, which is very interesting. So it's like, okay, this purple channel is clearly in play. Unfortunately, I'm running out of time now. You have a new low first entry short. You technically get a second entry short coming up right here. There's a new low first entry short, pulls back, second entry short for the count. But now I'm outside this purple, so I'm wondering if it's a second entry short, it's a failed breakout, and might actually come back in. I wasn't sure this was actually a trading range at this point in time. So this blue range didn't exist yet because I wasn't sure it was true yet. Comes out, keeps chopping around, it tests it again, and then it keeps going. And now it's just kind of running into the end of the day, and then it just gets kind of wild and really, really choppy because you can tell this is just like the last 10 minutes from here to here. There are definitely more than 10 candles. Even on a 1 minute chart, you'd only have 10 candles about here, but look how much price action is in here, how much stuff is happening. Just a lot of stuff. So I don't want to be involved in that with only 10 minutes left, unless I was already in a trade and managing a runner. So that's kind of how I saw the charts today. It's pretty interesting. I took 4 trades and 4 of them won, so I'm pretty happy, pretty fortunate. And that's kind of, I'm thinking tomorrow, I'm not 100% sure, but it seems like it might be kind of a recovery bounce because all this sell-off today and yesterday seemed like it was, I think, maybe some concern by people thinking that the Fed and the rates might get another, I guess, another raise sometime this year. They're hinting at it, but nothing is confirmed. So we'll just have to see. So hopefully that was helpful.